Chorus Voices, the podcast brought to you by Chorus, a fresh approach to community service. Settle in, listen in, and enjoy the voices who bring you reflections, musings, and stories from our community.
So hello and welcome to this episode of Chorus Voices, where we're going to have a bit of a conversation about the way we make Chorus a great place to work, or we hope we're making Chorus a great place to work. My name's Dan Minchin, I'm CEO of Chorus.
And I'm Lou Forster, Head of Brand and People.
So Lou, it's just one of those things that accounts for more airtime and column inches in business and management literature than just about anything, is how do you make a great place to work? And it's been something we've worked on very hard at Chorus. It's fair to say that we're really at the beginning of that journey. But today we're going to talk a bit about what we have been doing and what Chorus people are saying. Tell us a little bit about the journey we've gone on from your perspective, Lou.
A long and changing journey, I think, going from our 3 organisations to 1 and many sites, people at 20 plus sites across Western Australia. So we've been on quite a journey. I think it just always comes back to people, relationships, conversations, and having the time to sit down and listen, really, for me.
And Chorus is about enabling people to live the life they choose, and what we try and do is think about all people, whether that's an employee, a volunteer or a customer of Chorus. And the Richard Branson perspective is that if you can look after the people who are looking after the people, you'll go some way to being very successful as an organisation. I think that's been very much our approach. So what we're going to do is have a bit of a conversation with some people who've been actively involved in this, get some feedback, and we're also going to hear from some people around what's been frustrating and the things that we might learn and do differently, and sort of see the light and the dark of this journey and understand all its twists and turns. But yeah, you had a conversation with some of the people who are really actively involved, Lou.
I did. I had quite a long conversation with Laurel Trotter, who's our Group Manager of People and Culture, and we just kind of chewed the fat on how we're trying to build an organisation where people want to work, and it's just involved so many pieces of the puzzle, from attracting the right people in the first place and ensuring there's an alignment of values throughout that journey of bringing somebody into the Chorus, and then their journey with us and every interaction they have is consistent with the way we want to run this organisation. So yeah, here's a bit of a chat that Laurel and I had with all things people and culture and creating this organisation. So Laurel, you have been at Chorus for nearly 2 years.
Yep.
And in one of our predecessor organisations, but you haven't always worked in this sector. So what brought you over to the community service world?
Absolutely haven't ever worked in this sector before, so it's very new and fresh for me. I came from mining and manufacturing and felt that it was time to make a change, and had an absolute interest in community services due to ageing parents. I sort of decided that it was time to get to know what was in the industry, given that they're getting older. And once I started having a look into it, I just opened up opportunities. It's a different sector that doesn't necessarily have commercial style cultural programs, or really starting in that kind of environment. Well, it's what I thought, until I actually got into the sector and realised that there's definitely pockets that are really trying to get some momentum in that space, and in some areas not necessarily knowing how to get that momentum, some engaging in some fantastic and some not necessarily. The predecessor was definitely having inroads in the culture space, which is what really aligned with my values and with what my ideas are in HR in general. So I wanted to make a bit of a difference, blend some of what commercial experience is tailor it. Of course, it's not going to always work in every sector, but tailor it to what is community services sector and find out something new. And my brain has been absolutely exploded in what this industry is actually about.
So you've learnt lots of new things since you've been here?
I could spend an hour and a half talking about the new stuff that I've learnt. And I guess one of the biggest areas is just, I still don't know. I couldn't even possibly say I know anything about the sector compared to people that have been in the sector for a long time. But what I do know is that people are part of this sector because they have a purpose and they want to have a purpose, as opposed to commercial industry, where it's generally about money. It's you're there, yes, to make a difference, but it's not an element, and I certainly never felt an element of giving back or of having an actual purpose other than career or monetary value. Whereas I've really found in community services, you're here because you want to be here, and that can be varying different reasons. And to me, it's harnessing that for people's purpose of why they're actually part of, in particular, Chorus.
So I've been out and about on the road across Chorus asking people what they love about working for us, and I've got some really interesting just snippets from people about what they love. But what do you love about working at Chorus?
I guess part of it is being part of something very new and very exciting within the community services industry, that we say we're different, and we are, but I think part of that is just the infinite possibilities of being something fresh and new, and being able to be part of that is very exciting. And I also love bringing people together and engaging in that excitement of what it is to be something different, and what it is to do something new and fresh, and not necessarily just the way we've always done it. Thinking about the people rather than the process. And community services is quite a process-orientated industry, very governed by legislation or contracts and what have you. And hey, people and culture seems to have been generally set up that way, not wrongly or rightly so, but people don't always seem to be at the core of what we're doing. So I love being able to bring that part of it to Chorus in such a very fresh environment. And I like surprising people. You know, you talk about community services to other community services providers and talk about what we're doing, and I can often see almost a jealousy on other HR people's face, because they're like, oh wow, you're being able to really bring in some of this new fresh stuff, and it's being eaten, if I could say anything other than eaten up by the people that work for us. They're excited as well.
That's fantastic. Now I see your role as at least twofold. It's probably many more fold than that, but you know, one is leading your team of people that work in the people and culture space at Chorus, and like you said, moving to a focus on people rather than process. So you're leading this team to develop a new approach to people and culture at Chorus. And then your second kind of part to that is, you know, you and the team and engaging the leaders across Chorus are trying to create something different in our approach to people, with our 450 plus staff and, you know, several hundred, 600 or 700 volunteers. So tell us a bit about your thinking behind, you know, your team structure, and then we'll move on to a bit more about, you know, our approach to people at Chorus.
Yeah, that was probably something that is a lifelong journey of how people see people, for want of a double meaning there, in the place that they work. So I certainly believe that when you build a team, we're some of our whole parts. And if I can explain that my role might be group manager for people and culture, and traditionally in an org structure, I'll be at the top, and then there'll be the next level of people and the next level of people, and you'll have administrators and assistants down the bottom as we go down the levels. I generally and genuinely don't see my team that way. I genuinely see any team of all of us working together, and I often represent us in a kind of circular fashion where everybody is, you know, orbiting around the outside with people at the very centre, that we all contribute in different ways. And more often than not, if I'm honest, our administrators and our officers that would traditionally be seen at the bottom are ones that are really more important. They're the ones that if they don't get their work done or contribute the way that they need to contribute, people won't get paid. or people won't know where to turn up to work each day or have a uniform to, and it's not as important as my role necessarily writing a paper that gets delivered somewhere or being present.
That just reminded me, Laurel, you and I were at a conference recently, and we heard from Penny Flett, who was for over a decade the CEO of Brightwater, and she said that she used to go and talk to people on induction and would say to them that the organisation could probably run for a couple of weeks without her as CEO, but without the people on the ground, the support workers, it could probably not run for a day or two. And that was her way of saying how important the people on the ground really were. You just made me think of that.
Yeah, and she's awesome. She's such a breath of fresh air, and she's got, again, another amazing knowledge bearer of how we should treat people in an organisation. And it really is kind of it's a day-to-day thing as well. It's not, it's a day-to-day mantra, if you so speak, that's the way that we should approach people, is that no one's role or no one's position or no one's contribution should be any more or less valued than somebody else's. Because if our gardeners don't go out to work, people's gardens don't get done. If our support workers don't provide support and personal care to people, then it's customers that are not getting the support that they actually require. That is far more important than what I feel bring at particular times. So yeah, how we represent the team is in very much an equal fashion, and we've tried to then engage the rest of the business to think like that as well. So when we've gone through and done some structural changes, we've really contributed and supported and engaged the workforce and the leaders to think the same way, which is new to a lot of people as well. And they think I'm a little bit batty to start with, and why are you in a circle? What's going on? Are we all holding hands? And it's like, no, it's not a ring a rosy. It's actually about we are actually in this together. And it's really catching on. People are starting to represent the same sort of way.
And a lot of those, things, everyone having a voice and working collaboratively and supporting across the business are really, I guess, symbols of the way that Chorus is building this new kind of organisation. It's not aiming to be hierarchical, it's wanting to be collaborative, to engage as many people as possible into decision making, and really look at, culture and performance and things like that. So moving on to, I guess what we're trying to do across the organisation, you and I had talked before in that a lot of our culture work is focused on how we operate as individuals. And of course, being in the merger, we've addressed the organisational level and culture and structure. We've just, implemented a redesign. But, one thing that we're still really working with, we've done lots of work to date, but we're still working to build those kind of team dynamics with 21 sites across WA. It's no mean feat trying to bring an organisation together and those teams to work effectively. So what's your take on, how we as people and culture can support the Chorus teams to kind of, be working in the way that we want them to, and perhaps some of the things that we've got coming up?
Yeah, I think that is probably one of our next levels of challenges, is working on getting teams to work together collaboratively, as we have been working towards doing in co-design, as you said. And the tyranny of distance is, from Wanneroo to Albany, is quite tough, and it's tough to get everybody in all decisions at all times. There's a lot of work going on within the people and culture team as well, working with leaders to encourage, like you said, to actually support, not do. I think that's one of the key things. Traditional old HR would be that, a leader would call HR and say, I've got a problem, or I've got to recruit, or I've got to do something related to that field, and HR would bustle in and do it for them. We're only 6 people, and we've got 22 locations, and we've got 450 employees plus, etc., etc. So what you're also doing by doing that is not supporting and empowering the leaders to actually manage their teams and actually know their teams and get really to know how their team dynamics are working across locations or even within one location. So what we've been looking to do, and in fact doing, is providing support and tools to our leaders, developing their skills in areas that are developmental for them, so how to design their teams to make them work efficiently and effectively, how to communicate with their teams across, using technology. That's probably a big thing in community services, is technology is not as bright and bushy as it is in different areas. So using technology to actually get broader communications out to people. And supporting the leaders to actually sit down and have sometimes difficult conversations, but also really positive conversations. Giving a compliment and positive feedback can often be just as difficult as giving constructive and developmental feedback as well. So we've been working with the leaders to give them some skills and some tools, both one-on-one, in groups, to actually be able to work with their teams. What's coming up though is our next level of our cultural program, which has many layers to it, one of which is our COG, which we may or may not get to after, but there is also some support tools and developmental tools for leaders in the business, and that really hones in on what is it that our leaders need, individually and as groups, to work with their teams to get the very best out of them. And it starts with actually asking our people, what do you need to get for us to get the very best out of you?
Now that's a lot about the people that we've got, and we've got some amazing people, and we're working on developing them, as you've talked about. You mentioned recruitment, and we've done quite a lot of recruitment, because we've got industry level turnover, and in our industry it's about 25%, which is something we'd love to work on in the long term, but it does mean we have a number of people starting with us, and through the redesign processes that have happened in a couple of stages over the last 12 months, we've had a bit of recruitment. So how important is recruitment to an organisation like us that's trying to do something different and be very clear about who we are and our brand and our culture, and what sorts of things can we do to make sure that's successful?
Incredibly, particularly in a stage where we're a new organisation with an old history, is very, very important to get the right people into our business right now for what the organisation, the transition phase, and then where it goes from there. You and I have talked about on a number of occasions that the very top areas that are most important to us is that the people that join Chorus align with our values and with the culture. And the skills and the rest of it we can work on over time. Obviously they have to have basic skills and things to get, know how to do their role, but that it really is very much a values and a culture fit. So we've worked really hard over the last 12 to 18 months on our values and what they are, but how they actually translate into how to do recruitment to the values, and how to improve performance and develop performance to the values. But in particular, in that recruitment space, we've been working really hard on introducing some techniques like the STAR interview technique that really actually talks about behaviours and values and when they've aligned with that in their previous lives and what they'll bring to us. It's also looking at something different, not doing very dry ads in both on Seek and what have you. We've recently connected with other areas in LinkedIn and been, again, more technology savvy. We're just about to start rolling out, taking videos and doing some video footage, which is very exciting. We've got some budding actors amongst to do some video footage of a day in the life of, because I think it's very dry and mundane when you say a gardener. Well, it's quite hard to explain what they actually do, and it becomes very task focused and responsibility focused, not the actual purpose and the joy that you get out of doing your job every day.
And having spoken to a couple of our gardeners when I was doing induction about a month ago, the reason they joined us was about values alignment. They'd worked for commercial landscapers and had felt they'd never got any feedback, and they looked at their work, but it was purely just them looking at their work. They didn't get the thanks or that real kind of sense of purpose. So even a gardener role, if you were just looking at the tasks and roles and responsibilities, that wasn't just what they were looking for. And I also was thinking, when you were talking about our values, our RIPA values, responsive, practical, empowering and respectful, always. I was thinking particularly some feedback about your team has been from some of our new recruits that we are very responsive in our recruitment process. They really liked that. They were going through the process and, found out what the next stage was and ended up, with the best news that they got the job that they wanted and felt like we wanted them too. So I think that's a example of how we're living the values in how we are recruiting people, as well as looking for people that also align with our values.
Yeah, I think it's really important. No smoke and mirrors. Let's not say it's the best organisation, and if we're not, I think it's really important to be open and honest with people so that they're very aware of what they're joining when they're joining the organisation. Because let's face it, some values may not align with people. That not everybody is going to be, otherwise we'd be a vanilla kind of organisation and we'd have vanilla employees, and we wouldn't end up doing this very special thing that we want to do. But yeah, the videos are for recruitment. In the first purpose, walk a day in the life of, or 30 seconds or whatever it might be. But it's to be able to show so many more words. You could use so many words, but 30 seconds of video is going to show you exactly what you bring, and it gives all of the different facets of the role, the joy that customers feel when their garden is actually tidy and nice and in the space that they really feel that's valuable to them. And then the kick that gardeners get out of that, or our support workers, our day centres, we're certainly going to do exactly the same right across the business, not just with gardeners, but we want to go and do this in our personal care day centres, even our Meals and Wheels and Chorus Kitchen, because at the end of the day, we've got very varying roles in the organisation, and you don't know exactly what you bring until you actually are there. And you and I have been to those day centres, Lou, and they're a whole heap of fun, and there's a whole heap of antics that go on out there. You wouldn't know that. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't know what happened in community services until I actually joined. So if I had have known what it took or what it was like or the purpose of being in a community services was, I probably would have joined a long time ago. I didn't have that window to see what opportunities were actually out there, so I didn't therefore have the interest. And then the other part of it is we'll then sort of move on from and utilise some of these videos for training as well, to be able to use obviously externally to show people what services there are that we actually provide. We're also going to look to get some people that aren't in those roles to come and do these roles, just so that they can actually experience what it is like in a day in a life of what my colleague's role actually is. And I think that'll go a long way with sharing knowledge across teams. We sort of think, we kind of think we know what they do, but actually sitting down and doing a scheduler's job, even for 10 minutes, would blow the mind of a IT person or a support worker or a driver or a gardener.
And we've talked about leaders coming in and needing to do a full perhaps week of induction where they go and do half a day in a number of roles. I worked in the hotel industry in England in the 90s, and that was your way into hotel management, was you had to go and do a stint in each area. And though you said in the mining industry that was similar, so that you understand the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's some of the stuff that the external organisations, and we can just learn so much from, and then tailor it to the Chorus way of how we want to approach these things. But definitely in the industries that I've worked, and it starts often with graduate programs and student programs, which often are the best because they're designed by young people entering into our organisations. But you would absolutely, at the very least, you would do a Perth stint, a residential stint, and a fly-in fly-out stint, just to understand the differences between all of those three, even just day-to-day living lifestyle and how that impacts how you are at work each and every day. But then you would be asked to go and work in planning, which would be fantastic, and you'd learn that part of it. So when you were recruiting for the role, you actually knew what that role was, but also it just gives an element of understanding.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we'll bring to the team dynamics. And even if they don't do it, we've got the videos, you can actually say, well, actually, have you seen what they're doing and what goes on there in the day and how very busy it is, or what it is that challenges that they're thrown at each and every day.
I was thinking about travel agents, and if you're a travel agent, it's really important to have done some of those holidays and trips. It's hard to sell them.
Or
that'll be a
next
good job.
career, Lou.
Yeah. I'll add that one to the list of things to do. Well, thanks so much for coming and joining me in the studio today, Laurel. I think the things that we're doing in the people and culture space are so exciting and different and creative and courageous. And the creative stuff particularly I think is great because we've got people and culture in the same portfolio as marketing and communications with a whole brand and people approach. And that's resulted in some beautiful looking graphics and some video projects and it, we've identified our people, our staff and volunteers are our biggest brand ambassadors, and as we're launching this new organisation and brand, we need people to tell our story. So I think it's really, really exciting to see the work that you're doing and with your colleagues across the organisation, and we'll continue to do so. Let's watch this space.
Yeah, definitely. I think, what we say is we assist or work with people to live the life they choose, and I don't think that should be specifically just customers. I think, I personally want people to join Chorus because they want to work for us, because it's a real exciting place to work, and why, they're lining up out of the street to come and work for us and trying, like knocking on the door, how do we get in? Is really how I want to work. And from right through the spectrum of ages, from young people to, having graduate programs that people can join, to, student VAC work programs for community services when they've done certifications, people that have left their own industries and got to work out, well, what's my space in this new kind of world, really seeing that Chorus is very exciting and how do I get a piece of it? Definitely.
Come join the Chorus.
Come join the, oh God.
Excellent, thanks Laurel.
Thanks Lou.
So, like you said, Louise, an extensive conversation with Laurel, but really it's only. So, like you said, Louise, an extensive conversation with Laurel, and we just heard some of the highlights of it there. But the proof's really in the eating, isn't it? So, what are the people of Chorus saying to us at the moment?
A number of things. I went out and about with our roaming mic and asked a number of Chorus people what it is that they love about working here, and got a range of responses from. Actually, a lot of the responses were about the people that we work with, which was reassuring. That was nice, and how those colleagues, really make the place a great place to work. But also quite a few comments about what we're trying to do at Chorus, which I thought was great as well. Some real kind of big picture thinking about wanting to be part of this. So let's have a listen to a few of these comments.
I'm Jane, and I like the fact that there are lots of opportunities to do things in new and different ways.
The diversity of the services that Chorus provides is second to none, and it is really pleasing to see that we can provide services that include things like meals, helping people connect socially to others, and even helping people find employment and meaning in their lives. That's truly pleasing to see.
An innovative and responsive approach to truly person-centred community services.
I like the fact that Chorus is an organisation that is looking at the community care sector and trying to find a different way of enabling people to live the lives they choose. I think our people are really deeply engaged in making a positive impact on their local communities. And overall, the entire workplace is filled with deeply caring people, which makes it fun to come to work every day.
It's a very supportive environment, and every day is so different. It keeps your brain working.
I like the variety and that no 2 days are the same.
Collaborative culture and ability to have a say no matter your role.
I love working for Chorus. Every person has a voice and is part of the solution.
What I love about working here is that I work with amazing teams every day that are so passionate and committed to go and deliver services that make a difference in the lives of our most vulnerable.
I like the camaraderie, I like helping people. So that's my main thing. I came here, so helping people, so I suppose I need to do that, I suppose.
Yeah. After only being here a short time, I can see that it's a really positive and supportive culture, and there's a continuous effort to improve on this as well.
What I love about working at Chorus is the energy of the people that work here and their enthusiasm.
The difference we make in the community. love the opportunity to be involved in helping shape a new and fresh community service provider.
I really like that all the employees and actually staff members and volunteers, everyone's very committed to helping each other in the community. It's not just about getting the work done and going home with a pay, but it's really about the impact that you're making on other people.
I love working at Chorus because of all the diversity of the job, and all the people here are so good.
I love working at Chorus because everybody here is so lovely and they make work a nice place to be.
So there's a number of Chorus voices talking about what they love about working at Chorus and what it is we're trying to do. Somewhat paradoxically, I think, making a place a great place to work is hard work. It requires a huge investment of time and energy in relationships and keeping things positive or being open and honest about when things haven't gone quite so well. And we want to hear a little bit about that, the dark side of it, I guess. What's your experience been in the last week, months and year?
Going back to the beginning of the episode, really, I think it's about conversations, and not every conversation is, nice or easy or smooth. I guess it comes back to some of our approach with culture, in that we don't always go the easy route and say what people necessarily want to hear. And we also try and listen. So I've had some really, really tough conversations in the last bit, which is to be expected. We've got a lot of change happening at Chorus. And I think for me, it's about making time to listen. I've personally made a real attempt to be 100% present when I'm in a conversation with somebody. I had found that with so much going on, my mind had been wandering or thinking of the next thing, and that wasn't giving justice to the conversation. So I've made a real attempt to be present and to listen. And I think one of my approaches is to think, what do we want for Chorus and all those people involved in Chorus? So kind of looking to a future solution, to not get too bogged down into the task or the issues or the problem or the people right now. So what are we all trying to achieve, and how might we all be able to come there together? So I think a lot of my conversations have helped other people or myself get out of the quagmire of some sticky situation by thinking, well, where are we trying to get to, and how's the way that we can all get there? So I think our way of solving problems is hopefully unique and positive. And
part of the being a good place to work, like I said, it's somewhat sort of a paradox that making a place a good place to work involves confronting challenges and friction, and life is challenging, and work is called work for a reason. One of the interesting sort of tensions, I guess, when you're thinking about making a great place to work is the temptation is to start from the organisation's perspective and think about what the business needs, and usually you end up thinking about efficiency or streamlining or growth and these sorts of things. And often that doesn't translate into what's best for an individual at a particular point in time. So when you take it from that perspective, you realise that whatever it is you were trying to achieve, which might have been a great outcome for a customer or the community, so it's not always about a financial outcome. But sometimes you come to understand that you missed something. And that's one of the things I've really found in the last year is it's actually not possible to sit in a corner office or in front of a whiteboard and come up with a plan that's going to work. You need to see it from the perspective of individuals. So investing in time and energy of having those sorts of conversations, the difficult conversations, is such a critical component. So look, the roving mic was open for business for some feedback on some of the more frustrating and challenging aspects of working at Chorus. So let's hear a few of those now.
So it's really interesting because from very early days, when the three of us were three completely separate organisations, we realised that we needed to put in place some ways that would help us work across projects together. And one of the really successful things we found was to use SharePoint sites. And so we've continued that as we've gotten closer as organisations together. And it seems to be really successful as an interim measure. However, I was delighted today to receive the email from One Chorus, One Platform, telling us that we were, over the months of June and July, that we were transitioning to the new One Platform, and that once that was all completed, we would all have be on the same system and have a Chorus email address and be able to see people's calendars and shared documents. So it looks like interim isn't going to need to last for too much longer, which is great.
So when the new finance structure was put in place, I had a team that was spread across 3 sites. So of course it makes it difficult to kind of build that new team relationship and gain some efficiencies by having your team in one place. So that was a little bit of frustration as to how do I manage my new team across 3 sites. We did organise a once a week phone catch up with everyone as a team. But I guess just having that flexibility of turning around and looking at your team members, say, how can we do that better, or where's this file located, just made that communication process a little bit more difficult. I like to communicate in person when I'm building a new team, but we have made use of phone and email, but sometimes the intention of the conversation can be better understand face-to-face than over phone or via email. So hopefully the positive side of that is that once we are on one Chorus domain, it should make communication easier. We should be able to do Skype for business and have video calls if we want to see the other person. And with the new computer equipment coming in, working at different locations will be a lot easier because we're all on the same domain and all using the same computer equipment.
So look, this episode of Chorus Voices has been about making Chorus a great place to work, and we've tried to explore it in a way that means it might be relevant to anyone in any kind of organisation, and we've tried to have a look at the positives and the challenges, or the more negative aspects of it.
The good, the bad and the ugly.
Absolutely. And we've heard from many Chorus voices, including particularly Laurel and a number of others, who are telling us what they love about working at Chorus and some lessons for us going forward.
Well, maybe we can finish up, Dan, on talking about what we love about working at Chorus. I guess for me, no 2 days are ever the same. I love a challenge. I like something that's achievable. But I definitely enjoy working with a range of different people as well. So that's the people I work with, the challenges I get, and no 2 days being the same.
Yeah, well, it always starts with the people you're working with, and as you've said a number of times in this conversation, it's about the people and about the relationship and about the conversation. And for me, that has never been more true than at Chorus, and I think it's just a fantastic group, a fantastic team. I think the other thing about working at Chorus is I believe really strongly in what we're trying to do in enabling people to live the life they choose, to creating and enabling connections around people, whether they're vulnerable and in need, or simply a sort of a keen member of the community who would like to volunteer with us. And I really do believe that's going to make Perth, Western Australia, and potentially Australia a better place to live. So it's not difficult for me to feel passionate about that, and we're approaching it in a fresh and creative kind of way. You bring together that sort of dynamic environment, a fantastic team, and a mission that I can buy into. It's not hard to make Chorus a good place to work and a great place to work. So that's today's episode of Chorus Voices. It's been a fascinating one from my perspective, and hope the listeners agree.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Lou.
Thanks for listening to Chorus Voices, the podcast brought to you by Chorus. If you like our show and wanted to know more, check out our website at chorus.org.au. And please leave a review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and it helps others find us and enjoy the podcast as well. Join us next time for more inspiring stories and news from our community. Chorus, a fresh approach to community service.